I couldn't breathe. I was gasping for air. The knot around me was tightening. My neck, it was tightening. I could feel life slowly ebbing away from me. I was certain that I was going to die. And as I waited, suddenly I could feel a gush of air. And I could breathe once again. And I opened my eyes to see my house help Jane standing over him. Yes, he was at her feet. Jane had found him trying to strangle me and had pushed him. And in his drunken stupor, he had fallen down at her feet. And before I could comprehend what was going on, I heard Jane screaming and yelling, shouting at me, saying, "Mama, run. Run before he gets up. Run." And I remember running out of the TV room where we were, out of the house, out of the compound, out onto the street. I was running. Barefoot, I was running. Tears streaming down my face. I was just running. And many instances flashed through my mind just then. The smelly toilet in the servant quarters at the back of our house. The dark corner where I'd hidden for hours because I was afraid that he would find me. He was out there, brandishing the double-edged knife. I knew he was looking for me. I didn't want to be found, so I waited for hours. And then the long, jagged piece of broken glass from the aquarium pressed against my throat, tearing into my skin. He had thrashed the aquarium until it came crashing down with a loud noise, sending all our beautiful fish all around. And they were jumping, gasping for breath, trying to survive, just like I was. And then I saw the puddle of water around us turning red. Red from the blood that was dripping from his fist because it had gotten cut. And I thought, is this it? Am I going to die now? Many nights, when he would push me down on the mattress and my body going stiff, not just at the thought of making love, but out of fear, because I knew under the mattress is where he hid that knife for easy access when that little demon inside his head ordered him around. Yes, I am talking about the man I'd fallen in love with, had married, had hoped to share my whole life with. The man for whom I left everyone and everything I knew 34 years ago to come to this country. The man who fathered my child. The man who was so brilliant in his own ways that he could have been anything he wanted to be, a real genius. But this man was an alcoholic. This man was an addict. And to make things worse, this man was bipolar. Maya Angelou said, you know the famous quote, people will forget what you said to them and what you did to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That is so true. My wounds actually stem from the way I felt each time I was abused by the man I loved and married and had hoped to share my life with. And Carol is so right, they will never go away. They will always be there. Maybe after a while they will fade and become scars, but they don't really go away. Why I put up with that kind of violence for years is actually beyond me. It's still a mystery to me. I don't know why. Perhaps it was my belief in the sacredness of marriage. Perhaps it was my need to be like my mom and dad, to emulate their lives because they were so in love until their dying day. Perhaps it was fear of losing custody of my only child. And I knew he needed me because he was bedridden for quite a while following an attack of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I knew he needed me. I couldn't lose him. Or maybe it was love. You know how it is when you're in love. You get blinded. Or maybe it was hope. Hope that things are going to be okay. I truly believed that he's going to get better. That everything was going to be fine. And we are going to be one happy family. That hope kept me going for years. Until that morning, running through the streets, hope did something else. Hope for once told me to take care of myself. Hope made me want to survive. Not just for myself, for my child too. And so I think I made the best decision of my life, to walk away. You know, by saying you should walk away and that's the best decision, let me also tell you, it is not the easiest of decisions to make. It requires so much thought. You can't just one fine morning walk away, even if it is that bad, because you need to ensure there is financial stability for yourself and for your dependents. You need to make sure that everything will be okay and there will be a purpose for your life. But how do you do that? All I remember, I didn't move out the next morning. I didn't, after the incident. It took me almost a month to move into a house of our own. And in that 1 month, I planned. I actually sought the help of my employers, who were very, very considerate and sympathetic, and they listened. And they actually paid deposit and advance for the house that we moved into eventually. There was a family support group for Alcoholics Anonymous. They were wonderful people too, because they shared, they listened, they gave me strength. And then we also had a personal counselor, Pauline. I still remember her, Pauline Proudfoot. And she was fantastic because she held our hands through that journey, through that phase. And then what I remember is the night of the time we moved in, the first night in the new house. You know what? After years, I slept. I don't know for how long, because I think it probably was next day, afternoon, when I woke up. Because for once, after years, I slept without having to fear, without having to worry, without having to look over my shoulders. I slept that night, and that's what I always remember about the move. I think when you move, somehow, you reinvent that inner strength you have. Because I guess it was always there. Because I had had a beautiful childhood with brilliant, amazing parents and cousins and friends back home. And that had already laid that foundation of strength in me. It's just that I had forgotten all about it in my everyday attempt to just survive. And when we moved into this new house, where he had no access, suddenly it was like I reinvented that strength. And the days that followed, I had time in my hands. Truly, like I've never known time and space, so that I could think clearly. I started doing yoga and meditation because I knew it was good for my body and mind. And during my early morning sessions of meditation, it was like God was speaking to me. Because I would wake up and be filled with so many ideas. It was like he was pushing me towards my purpose. And every day after the session, I would just write down whatever ideas that came to my mind, I would just write down. And you know what? Those little points that I noted down actually became points for my proposal for the school in the end. Because I was able to put together a proposal to start my own school from those ideas. My prayer, my pledge, every little thing that is there in the school was as a result of those early morning moments. This year, we actually turned 10 at NIS. And looking back, even that was not an easy journey. Remember, I had no penny to my name. So even though I had a brilliant proposal, I had to walk in and out of every bank, every financial institution in this country. And there was always the same question, do you have collateral for security? And my answer was no. Until I found a venture capital company that was willing to give me money. They believed in my proposal. They believed in me. And that's how 10 years ago, in the September of 2008, we started NIS with 35 children. As I speak, I know I saw earlier we have parents here, and I'm grateful you've come. We're over 600 children, and they are what I want to share with you. This was my purpose, to touch children and to bring up children, whose voices are heard and acted upon. And I've seen over 2,000 kids go through the school. 400 kids have graduated and gone off to best of universities around the world. And many of them now are change makers and opinion leaders in their own societies. So that was my purpose. And I do know, I agree again with Carol, during this process when we were meeting for wounds, I missed quite a number of meetings because I was so busy at school. And Valentine kept saying, you should have a session with Carol, you guys should meet. And today is when I actually understood why, listening to Carol and Valentine, suddenly it occurred to me why she was saying we should meet. And I agree totally with what you said earlier on. The wounds don't go away, and there will always be new wounds also. That is life, because it's definitely not a straight line, as we all know. And whatever, the graph in the hospital monitor that says up and down, zigzag pattern, that's synonymous to life, that's what it is. There will always be ups and downs. And you definitely need to confront when there are adversities, when there are difficult times. Pray, have faith, be hopeful. And, you will find that inner strength. But I also want to talk about 2 or 3 things that if anybody in the audience, I don't know, but if you're going through it, and if there is no other issue and it can be addressed by going for counseling, well and good. But after months and years of counseling, if there is no change in your partner, don't stay on, because it's going to kill you. The thing is, I realized the time, remember when I was running and I thought I gave different excuses. And I can tell you, I realized that marriage at that time, for me, it's just an institution, just like jailers. I was imprisoned and enchained. And my wish to be or need to be like my mom and dad, I am not my mom and he was not my dad. We are 2 different people living in different times with different challenges. So it was pointless trying to be like them. And my fear for my son, he was already 16. And in a couple of years, he was going to grow up and become a man himself. So there was no need for me to fear. And about love, true love definitely is not one that kills you. It definitely needs to be reciprocated. True love is one that nourishes and nurtures your body and soul. So if you know that is not what you are going through, don't stay. That's what I wanted to say. And while you're in the process of separation, give it some good thought. And don't be distracted. That's one thing I know many of us face, because we are so vulnerable at that point, we get distracted. Some of us fall into other relationships straight. Please don't. Some of us try to seek consolation in bars and clubs and in the wrong company. So I would say, please don't. Don't be distracted, because look for your purpose, because it's there. God has blessed each and every one of us with that purpose. So look for that purpose and work on it, because that will impact so many other lives. And I think this particular session of Dadasphere Wounds, I didn't know what I was getting into. And Valentine was so right. When she called me, I was like, yeah, I can speak, no problem. But once it started and I started talking to Val, I was like, can I really do this? Because wounds truly, they don't go away. They can become scars and fade, but something like this or something else will always trigger it again and again. And you need to confront. So, like Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. That's my experience. Thank you very much.